embarked upon a formal process of constitutional reform. The people were excluded from the design of the process, and the people did not trust it. The PNP is very clear on our positions on points of principle. Our representatives on the committee that they established did not sign the report of that committee because we did not agree, and we do not agree with some of its recommendations. And I will share some of those issues with you now. First, the reformed Constitution will establish the role of a president to replace the Governor General. We have no problem with that. The president will play a critical role in appointments to sensitive positions of state. And that president must be perceived as independent of partisan politics. The president must enjoy the trust and confidence of the society as a whole. Therefore, if there is no consensus between the government and the opposition on who the person should be as president, the PNP does not support the appointment being made by a simple majority vote in Parliament. That effectively is what the majority of that committee have recommended. That would compromise the independence, trust, and confidence that the president must enjoy. And I say, no way, that is not in the interest of Jamaica. We also insist that an impeachment procedure should be included in the reformed Constitution to hold delinquent politicians to account. The two parties were originally committed to this. I tabled a revised impeachment bill in Parliament in April 2021, over 3 years ago. But this government has chosen to ignore it for 1,237 days. Accountability is not a priority for them, as it is for the PNP. The JLP has flip-flopped, and impeachment has been excluded from the report of that Constitutional Reform Committee. We support full decolonization now, not a piecemeal approach. No more foreign king as our head of state, and no more inaccessible final court on the other side of the world that decides our laws in the name of a foreign king. We want a final court that is accessible to our people so that they can get justice. And the Caribbean Court of Justice, the CACJ, is doing this for the people of Barbados, Guyana, Belize, Dominica, and St. Lucia, and those countries are doing well. Time come for the Jamaican people to have the fundamental right of access to high quality justice at the highest level. Comrades, fellow Jamaicans, those are some of the reasons why the PNP did not sign that report. But our party is very committed to constitutional reform, and when we form government, we will restart that process, but in an inclusive way. We will invite the people of Jamaica to participate in a meaningful conversation about how we can enrich our democracy by making our leaders more accountable to the people. How we can make the processes of government more transparent to the people, and how we can empower the people through a more participatory model of local government. We are committed to completing the local government reforms which we embarked on when we were last in government but have stalled under this government. We will implement the commitments made in our local government election manifesto to empower our municipalities to deliver high-quality government and services to the people in the municipal corporations. Jamaicans are tired of the impunity of those who hold political power. Public officials must be held accountable, and there must be transparency and openness in the conduct of national affairs and reasonable protection of privacy in personal life. I am very concerned about the insidious abuse of the Data Protection Act by state officials to restrict disclosure of potentially damning information in which there is a strong and legitimate public interest. First, it was to hide the details about the waste of taxpayers' money to make massive rental payments for an unoccupied building to a private owner. Then it was to hide information about the salaries being paid to the former DPP, whose extension in office was ruled unconstitutional by the Supreme Court, and to the person who was appointed to act as DPP pending a permanent appointment.
Come take a look in Jamaica, injustice in the place now. If what you see no really pays you, then you want the it's out of many but one set.
There is no accountability for non-performance in this JLP administration. Government negligently allows critical boards and tribunals to grind to a halt because of failure to make appointments when the terms of those boards expire. The Early Childhood Commission, the Access to Information Appeals Tribunal, even the Public Service Commission itself have been examples of the government falling asleep at the job. And ministers desperately seek to pass the buck when a passenger falls sick and dies at our largest airport without any prompt medical response or even an ambulance to take him to hospital in time to try and save his life. Corruption is rampant at the highest levels of this government. You will remember during my budget presentation when they tried to prevent me from saying some critical things about governance, even shutting down the sitting of Parliament. Well, I went on the street and I said what I had to say, and I will say it here again. The failure to disclose the identity of the so-called illicit 6 MPs who are under investigation by the Integrity Commission for illicit enrichment remains a festering sore, only made worse by the Prime Minister's gag order on cabinet ministers speaking publicly on these matters. But wait, comrades, I have to rewrite that part because it is no longer 6. It has gone to 8. So let me say it again. The failure to disclose the identity of the so-called illicit 8 MPs who are under investigation by the Integrity Commission remains a festering sore, only made worse by the Prime Minister's gag order on his cabinet ministers and MPs speaking publicly on these matters. Comrades, I had to hurry up and say that a second time, because before we reach and finish here today, maybe it will move from 8 to 12, the way how the number of labor rights illicits seems to multiply like gremlins. And comrades, now we have a second Integrity Commission report on the Prime Minister, sent to Parliament, but not yet tabled for the public to see, with little bits of it being selectively leaked to JLP allied media houses. We will put a stop to such shenanigans. We will change the law so that all Integrity Commission reports must be published on Parliament's website within a short time, perhaps 24 hours of being sent to Parliament, so all Jamaicans can read those reports. Comrades, it is time to change these things. Accountability and transparency matter, and that is change. When the PNP forms government, our job is to create an environment in which Jamaicans can thrive and achieve their versions of the Jamaican dream. Every Jamaican must feel well cared for and enabled by their government. We must invest and build an efficient and caring public service with short wait times, giving value for the taxes that you pay. We want a Jamaica where our people don't pay to migrate to foreign because you're so nice. Deserve much more than what is happening now. We want garbage moved from our gates. We want street lights that work. We want sewage in pipes underground and not running in the streets. We want clean piped water in all our homes, and we want roads that don't mash up our vehicles' front ends if you're lucky enough to have a vehicle. And we want public health facilities that treat people with dignity and provide good and affordable health care. And we need schools that give every child a strong basic education so they can go on to pursue whatever career they choose. And we want to feel safe in our homes and in our communities. While there is no magic wand to do everything at once, the PNP in government will prioritize the things that the people are crying out for every day. And we will ensure that public resources are not scraped away in corruption for friends and cronies, but are only used for the benefit of the people. My fellow Jamaicans, the PNP will apply a mix of change policies to put things right. We are ready to move forward on a new path. The PNP's talent pool is deep and wide, with the right mix of experience, skill, expertise, energy, and commitment to transform Jamaica. We are ready to take the bold steps necessary to make Jamaicans' lives better, and we have a plan. Jamaica has one of the highest murder rates in the world. And our first priority must be strengthening and enabling communities to feel safe and secure. The PNP's vision for citizen security is built on a foundation of community partnership and empowerment. We are committed to the optimal blend of effective law enforcement with community-driven solutions to create a safer Jamaica. Our strategy targets the root causes of crime and delivers results that reduce crime and violence sustainably. A balanced approach to crime and crime reduction is at the core of our strategy. Our approach recognizes that public safety is best achieved when enforcement and prevention are working in harmony. Under this government, that has not been happening. But we have a plan. They shut down Unite for Change, and they defunded the peace management initiative, and crime and violence went through the roof. We will not neglect the need for community engagement. We will not outsource it to the private sector. We will partner with the private sector, with the churches, with civil society, and roll out a national program of effective, holistic, and sustainable community engagement. And we will not ignore the reality that our prison system needs an overhaul so it rehabilitates inmates rather than producing more hardened criminals. Our portfolio teams for citizen security, education, social transformation, culture, and sports have been taking a joined-up approach, working together. We will invest heavily to increase the number of social workers in our communities, tasked with addressing core social programs and problems like school absenteeism, teenage parenting, and student hunger. We will ensure that the needs of our most vulnerable citizens, children, elderly, and infirm Jamaicans are responded to by the state. And therapeutic counseling will be integrated into our intervention programs to combat the culture of violence and the trauma that it causes. We will provide at-risk youth with viable alternatives to criminal activity, investing in remedial education, job training, and youth development programs. The next PNP government will revisit and revamp the Social Development Commission. It was originated by the Right Excellent Norman Manley, and once again it will become a catalyst for sustainable community development.
Did you use them out to live? Did you use them out to survive? Hold your corner and save your life, and that's no jive.
We envision community-based training programs in construction skills, coding, software development, dramatic performance, arts, music, design, filmmaking, sound engineering, and sports. This will engage more young people in productive tasks and give lawful alternative pathways for the youths to make a good living. This integrated approach will lay the foundation for sustainable peace and progress in our communities. We will also pass legislation to allow targeted detentions under court supervision for known producers of violence on whom there is credible intelligence. This will enable cases to be built and lead to successful prosecutions, so there is accountability and no more impunity in this land. Our proactive, interventionist social policy will also help to support our economic policy, and it is to that economic policy that I now turn. My fellow Jamaicans, we are at a crossroads in our nation's economic history. The country faces two distinct economic choices. Jamaica, under the current government, will continue down a path where only a few benefit, and most Jamaicans face hard times, frustration, and hopelessness.
Well, poor people fed up, to your system, shut up, you issue guns and repeat me boss. Poor people fed up, to your system, shut up, and every year they get to use them.
We remain committed to macroeconomic stability and prudent fiscal management. That's very important, comrades. Never forget that it was the last PNP administration that did the heavy lifting to enable Jamaica to reduce its debt to GDP ratio by half in just 10 years. It's the PNP who achieved that and started that ball rolling in the right direction. But while that is necessary, it is clearly not sufficient. Our national sacrifices and fiscal successes must deliver real improvement in the lives of our people. Everybody must benefit and no one should be left behind. That is the PNP philosophy. We will build out our vision of Jamaica becoming a global maritime and aviation logistics hub. It started under us, but it has stalled. Jamaica must capitalize on our unique geographical position, right at the trade lines that pass through the Panama Canal and at the heart of international trade routes. We will build out clusters of logistics-related activities to increase quality, well-paying jobs and expand the economy, driving further investment in logistics-related industries. Our aim is to transform Jamaica into a premier trade and logistics hub and the gateway to the Americas and a cornerstone of growth in regional and hemispheric trade. We need a more balanced and resilient economy in an era of growing food insecurity. So, look out for the transformation of agriculture and the blue economy, our maritime economy, to drive rural development. We have to invest in farm roads, in cold storage facilities, in irrigation systems. We have to deepen the use of technology, marketing support, and expanded access to affordable loans for our farmers.
Farming over plus, investment over graph. Inheritance when the seeds are, me alright, baby.
We will forge collaborative relationships with the large private sector players in poultry, agro-processing, milk and livestock production to improve and increase their already significant contribution to the economy. We will partner with CASE and other research institutions to develop productivity-boosting projects and improve our planting stock, our animal genetics, our farming systems, animal husbandry, and agronomy. We will boost our own research facilities at Bodles, Orange River, and Montpelier. Experts in each sector will provide the blueprint required for our farmers to grow those sectors so as to ensure food security for our nation. Comrades, another critical industry in the pursuit of inclusive, sustainable economic growth is the cultural creative sector. The state must get behind this sector to assist it to reach its enormous economic potential for the people of Jamaica. Our portfolio teams will work together to establish a single authority for the efficient granting of permits for entertainment events. We will establish 24-hour entertainment zones in suitable locations and develop balanced and clear guidelines under the Noise Abatement Act for nighttime entertainment in communities. Comrades, energy is fundamental to the economic development of our country. Remember this government's promises in 2016 about big power plants and big energy companies to lower light bills in Jamaica. Well, they are nowhere to be seen. This JLP government has failed to bring on board any new renewable capacity to the grid. And we are tired of those promises from the government year after year. We will get it done. We have done it before and we will do it again. The price of electricity is too high in Jamaica, and the PNP will get it down.
So we decide, say, well, me not pay the bill yet. So me say, alright, me not pay the bill yet. So we decide, say, well, me not pay the bill yet.
We will invest in regularizing electricity supply in communities where true-ups are the norm. And the state has to underwrite most of the cost of rewiring, inspection and certification, and provide solar capacity pooled into community microgrids to reduce household electricity bills among newly regularized customers. Everyone must lawful. The current JPSCO license is coming to an end. So we have the opportunity, indeed the duty, to ensure a more responsive and forward-looking approach to customers' needs and the resilience of our country's transmission and distribution systems to be taken. Energy is critical to the economy. Change means enabling families to own land and afford proper housing. Land and housing are fundamental development priorities. In celebration of our first female Prime Minister, we will bring forth the Portia Initiative, the program for orderly renewal and transformation of infrastructure in all areas, the Portia Initiative. This program will drive policies that Sister P stood for, improving infrastructure in old housing schemes, tearing down zinc fences in communities and replacing them with proper concrete walls, completing the infrastructure and land titling for existing land tenure regularization schemes, they call it Operation Pride, and rolling out new ones to bring hope and decent living conditions in areas of social neglect. Our beloved Sister P will smile as the next PNP government improves sidewalks for persons with disabilities, provides housing assistance to needy citizens, and beautifies communities where our people live. The Portia Initiative is a must, and time come for that.
When you get the system you're from, but those are young poor people learn. Don't know seminar, but again no sir.
The next PNP government will also make lands available to the National Housing Trust for qualified contributors so they can build their own homes. From day one, we are going to restore the core mandate of the National Housing Trust, which was the baby of Michael Joshua Manley. We will stop the extraction of capital from the National Housing Trust. It was an emergency measure. It was supposed to only last for 4 years, and it has now continued for over 12 years. And we will return to providing affordable houses for people who need to buy or build a home. We plan a comprehensive review of all laws relating to housing to find ways to make housing more affordable for all Jamaicans. These initiatives are all about balancing the books and the people's lives, something that Sister P always spoke about and believed in. Comrades, Jamaica must emerge from an economy characterized by low growth, low wages, low technology, low productivity. And to do that, we must choose change. And this area, investment in human development must be the key. It must be the key. And when it comes to education, the the People's National Party's conviction remains the same. Education, education, education is at the top of our priority list. We are committed to building an education system that is inclusive, equitable, and excellent. Bold steps and real investment are needed to ensure that every child from the earliest years through to tertiary education has the opportunity to succeed. We have the plan and we are ready. Today, I reaffirm our party's commitment to excellence in education. Our approach to early childhood development will provide performance-based incentives for early childhood facilities to give them additional resources to improve standards. At the primary and secondary levels, we will implement a comprehensive program that is targeted and provides targeted support to each aspect of the curriculum. Expanding access to tertiary education is also a critical part of the mix. I have long advocated for the removal of guarantors for student loans, a policy that this government has eventually adopted, and it was a significant step forward. And we are in full support of that, because we put the interests of Jamaican people first. But as the party of ideas and implementation, we must take this further. We believe education must not be a burden of debt, but a bridge to a better future. We will make student loans more borrower-friendly. Graduates will only begin to repay their student loans once they are employed, and their monthly payments will be capped at an affordable percentage of their monthly income. And if there are times when they are between jobs or they're out of work, payment on their student loans will be deferred and tacked onto the back end of the loan period without penalties. This will remove the fear and reluctance among young people to borrow to invest in their education, and it will free up young professionals to build their careers.
Oh, yeah, education is the key for betterment. In this modern time, in this modern time. Education is the key for betterment. Never wasting time.
Teachers are the backbone of the education system. And we must show that we truly value our teachers. And we must do whatever is necessary to persuade them to stay in our education system. A student loan forgiveness program will be provided to our teachers based on their years of service in the system. And what we have in mind is that 1 year of payments on their student loan will be forgiven for every year that they remain employed in the public education system. Making the necessary investments in vocational training is also critical for Jamaica to move up the value chain. This starts at the secondary level. Every secondary school must offer a cluster of vocational offerings and will be equipped with state-of-the-art vocational labs, providing hands-on training in critical skills during the day for the students, and will be open to adults in the evenings, promoting lifelong learning and skills development. We also need to incentivize businesses to invest in training, and we have a plan. We propose that HEART matches dollar for dollar the amount that businesses spend on training. This will incentivize and expand business training programs even beyond the current employees of the business. We see a dynamic partnership between the state and the private sector to transform national productivity, rapidly developing our capacity to absorb new investments that create well-paying, high-value-added jobs for our people. It cannot be denied that to have a strong and productive economy, we must have a healthy population. Every Jamaican has joined in the sacrifices that reduced our country's debt. Our people ought to be repaid with a health sector that treats every Jamaican with dignity, not burdened by long waiting times, sleeping on floors or chairs because there are no beds available to admit them when they are sick, and heavy charges for outsourced diagnostic tests that cost an arm and a leg because the equipment in the public sector health system is not being maintained. Millions of dollars are being spent on marketing a broken health system to make everything seem fine and dandy. Popularity is being prioritized over the health of our people. Under this government, the Cornwall Regional Hospital is still barely functioning. The last price tag we heard for its refurbishing was over $22 billion, when $2 billion was originally to be spent, and no one has been held accountable under this regime. It is scandalous, and it is putting additional pressure on the health system to try to cover up or cover for this major health facility being out of action for so long.
Corruption cracking up, pandemic. Corruption cracking up, pandemic. No time to pretend. No time to.
We choose change, and here is what we will do. We know that prevention is much better than cure, less costly and faster. We will focus on primary care to detect and treat diabetes, high blood pressure and other chronic diseases, and screen for the early detection and treatment of cancer. The goal is to treat patients well before they get so sick that they need to be admitted into hospital. We will reform procurement and inventory management in the health sector to ensure value for money, and we will give healthcare workers the necessary tools to do their jobs properly. We will train teams of biomedical engineers to repair and maintain the broken equipment, the X-ray machines, ultrasound, CAT scan, ventilators, and keep them in working order so patients have access to them when they need it most. We will expand urgent care services to reduce overcrowding and long waiting times in emergency departments. Comrades, it is a disgraceful blot on this government's record that maternal and child death rates are higher today than they were in 1995. Jamaica is going backwards under this government. Mothers and babies are dying. What happened, Andrew? How come you don't hear the dead babies now?
I hear the spirit of a little baby crying, crying. I hear the spirit of a little baby crying, 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 saying what?
The PNP will prioritize the procurement of intensive care units, providing critical care for mothers, babies, and the general population. My fellow Jamaicans, comrades of the People's National Party, and friends, I have provided you with an understanding of the direction that we must take Jamaica in order to move our country forward. Effective governance built on integrity and honest communication with the Jamaican people are principles that will guide a Mark Golding-led PNP government. We have the team. A team that is sharply focused on providing efficient and caring public service to make Jamaicans feel more hopeful, more empowered, and more facilitated. Our policy mix will engender positive values and attitudes, a greater sense of national purpose, and a caring liberty among all our people. I and I must live as one. We are on the pathway of change. build a society where every well-thinking Jamaican has the opportunity to improve their quality of life. That is our ambition, and I draw inspiration from our most transformational leader, Michael Joshua Manley, who told us if the moral purpose of this mission is to remain intact, it must be approached in humility and supported by prayer. Comrades, it is up to all of us now. Walk every hill and valley, every nook and cranny, every street and lane. Bring in the 90 and 9 and then go for the missing one. Listen to the people's voices and let them hear the trumpet sounding, the mighty refrain from Niggeril Point to Moran Point and back. Time come, and we choose change. Power to the people, comrades. Power to the people. Power to the people. One love, and God bless Jamaica, land we love.
Yeah, we say hello and Joe. Good morning. No, say you never did party, Mark. Wake up, we keep talking. Yeah, we say hello, bad mind. How you doing today? How you doing today? Yo, Marky G, we no want no strange face round. We are just how we stay. Hey, tell them Mark no big friend. Marky G care about people. Them know himself, them steering too. We no love lights, we no fight. We money your vehicle. Dirty bad mind, we no need your Mark no big friend.
Yo, Jamaica! PNP, we're ready! Now, kitchen! They say you're hot this year. What am I gonna do if hold you? What do you think? We're going to win this year. That evil answer can't hold you. He can't hold you. Man, holding up this year. What am I gonna do if hold him? What do you think? He going to win this year. That evil answer can't hold him. He can't hold him. Man, holding up the same, up the same. Because of the win, no, because you were ready that this song get damaged. Tell him to dress back. Because we put us up the win.
All right, so some songs, some music to close out the 86th annual conference of the People's National Party at the National Arena. And comrades would have been satisfied with what they got from their leaders. There was pomp, there was, well, not much pageantry, but there was a lot of pomp. And the excitement went through the roof earlier when some of the more recognizable faces in the society, especially on the entertainment side, Vybz Kartel, when he came, that perhaps was the high point in terms of the crowd reaction to what was happening on stage. Not far behind that, if far behind that, or behind that any at all, was the presentation from Damian Crawford, which many people tell you is what they would remember from these proceedings this afternoon at the National Arena. And then the leader came and he sought to close it out with the policy message, trying to chart the course that the PNP will take to Jamaica House and the things they will prioritize if they are in government. Mark Golding. And it's for us now as analysts to pour over the highlights from this event. The PNP presenting themselves as a unified force and showing that they are ready to resume and to retake the reins of government. All right, so my panel in studio with me, I have Roger Bent and I have Sandra Roden. Gentlemen, let's go overall. Let's go from the bird's eye view first, looking down. Sandra, in totality, what did you see?
Well, the conference itself was good. You know, it was a good conference. I dare say it's one of the best conferences we've seen over the past 4 years from the People's National Party. I dare say it really, as it relates to expectations, it really lived up to the expectations as it were, because a lot of people would have wondered, you know, what are they going to come with, knowing that the election is nigh. You know, the Prime Minister's window to call it is very slim, George. And as a result of that, you know, they had to come out and they had to show out. And I would say, as one of my friends would have said to me, they seem to have learned from the DNC and the RNC because the digital aspect was through the roof.
Yes.
I don't know what the Jamaica Labour Party will come with, but the standard,
Yes.
the standard, George, is very high, and the Jamaica Labour Party will have to either match or outdo this in a major way. You know, Damian Crawford is the highlight.
Yes.
Other people will say other things, but Damian Crawford, he really came out and he touched on his education, but he also touched on some other issues. But it still shows that he's that electrifying speaker, that person that he went on the stage and he started mellow, you know, started on a low, started out singing, you know, and then he ended it like that. But not only that, if you want to know a good speaker, Roger will tell you, is somebody who can get the crowd to be saying what you want them to say at the end. He had the people singing his song he started with at the end, and his message resonated with me. And when you look at the other speakers, you had other good speakers there. I think Natalie Nita Garvey really did well with her introduction. But of course, we cannot forget the fact that Vybz Kartel came on stage.
We're gonna go specifically to that. So I like your overall perspective, Roger. Your overall perspective on what you saw and watched for over 3 hours.
I love the optics, and the optics. When I speak to the optics, I'm referring to one, the kind of energy that is in the space that we're seeing. At least we're seeing excited people, at least for the most part, because there are moments when I didn't think we were giving the kind of excitement we should have at certain points, but I think overall, if we're looking at it from that point of view, then I think, one, we saw definitely an increase in energy coming from the people. Optics in terms of a more unified front that we were seeing, right? We saw, at least I could figure, based on body language and even use of words, I saw some elements of camaraderie, and I also saw, you know, kind of a friendship.
Fun there, camaraderie among the comrades.
Yes, so I saw that, and I thought that was very good. And messaging, I think I want to leave that for a little bit, for some more.
Yes.
But as it relates to the speakers, generally I thought the lineup was pretty good. I thought maybe some persons who were in particular positions could have been shifted. The order could have shifted, and then you'd have gotten a completely different mood leading up to the party leader's speech. But overall, I think that was also very good. Damian Crawford and how he comes across. The way he has an ability to get to the crux of the matter, and the way he does when he talks about, listen, stones and snakes, and then he talks about this finding the stone heap and the snake nest. That ability to stick to analogy. That's a good storyteller. That's a good writer. You don't start with an analogy and you can't end with one.
Right.
And his ability to do that and to still hold the crowd is absolutely fantastic. So those things, listen, Vybz Kartel comes under optics. I don't need to say anything else about that. Whether it's the Maroon Chief or it's Vybz Kartel, they had it. Even the Emperor himself, they had optics.
L.A. Lewis.
They had optics, they had drama, they had good television. Those parts of it I think I like. Later on, I guess when we begin to get into the messaging, maybe we can talk some more.
Yes.
I think just the button there, as we talk a little bit about the optics, what we have to remember are those little ads that were in between on the television side. That little moment from his son that came on, that idea of family that showed the leader of the opposition in that way, that light. It really brings something across, because if you remember, and I like to draw the parallels, because if you remember when the now Prime Minister was then opposition leader, a part of his campaign was, you know, pulling in his family to show that he's a family man. There's a man for the people, a man that loves people, and his son really did well. I can say that is an ad that I know will resonate with people. And those things, as it relates to the optics, the digital side, they got it. The production team, they got it down pat as it relates to the planning and execution of what we want to see. But I agree with Roger about the speakers, because trust me, if they shifted that lineup a little bit, George. Some speakers that were closer to the opposition leader, you put them up, you put persons like Damian Crawford down a little more, you put probably Dayton before him, that type of thing, and you lead that build up. You keep Natalie where she was with the introduction, and then you'd have a build. And we know what we're talking about, because in public speaking, you're not going to want to have, you know, that up and down, that variation, but and that took away a little bit from the conference, because the variation in the speakers, you have a really powerful speaker, then you went down. So the emotions, when you don't have that build up to go to the final, the grand finale, you know, we lost a bit of
So the question is it a case that at the death, at the climax, when the comrade leader came, that the crowd was tired by the time he came?
I think there's a strong possibility. We saw evidence of it in terms of even on the platform, and those persons in the very front of the arena. That you could see the exhaustion.
Energy was low.
The energy was low. It could be the energy of the speaker, but it could also have been the length of the event.
The program was long.
The program was long, right?
Yeah.
But I think also those persons who are at that stage, who are those persons who are so highly visible, have a responsibility as well to know that they are on show, and they need to also be giving off the right kind of vibe.
And the same question for you, Sandra, because with you wouldn't, for a program as long as that, over 4 hours long, I said 3 over 4 hours long, almost 5 hours long. A program as long as that, you're going to have peaks and valleys. But there were so many peaks before Mr. Golding came that what that caused, even though the excitement was welcomed and that's what helped to make conference a success, I believe. By the time it got to him, he had the disadvantage of talking to an audience that had peaked emotionally and excitementally. I mean, let's make up a word. Before.
Yeah, the lethargy kicked in after you did so much march, Porsche march, you know. And when you think about that, you know, would have had the DJ himself up there that would say, get up everybody, march, Porsche march, going around, and then you had big speakers like Damien going up and Damien rallying that crowd, people standing up because, you know, he has that pull. And then even Dayton Campbell, the General Secretary, he did a good piece himself as well, and people were engaged. And you know when people are engaged, when you're doing a political speech, when Dayton was talking, you know, I think he's gotten way better over the years. He was talking, people were standing up, people were, you know, making noise. That's how you know that you're good. Even when the leader of the opposition started, I think his soliloquy there about the past leaders and their legacies was really good because people were really responding to that. But as he got down in his speech, you saw the lethargy, because as he got down and down and down in his speech, people are now tired. Now that is not uncommon to, you know, political speeches, but because of the highs, the lows, the dips and so on, it didn't feel as climaxing as you would have wanted it to feel at something like a political rally.
Hear you on that. We're going to go to the national arena because Mika Lewis is working out there, and she has an interview lined up with the chairman of the People's National Party, Dr. Angela Brown-Burke. There's a delay on the line, so we're sending it over to you now, Nika.
Annual conference just concluded here at the National Arena in Kingston. Joining me on the platform right now is the party's first female chairman, and we have her as Dr. Angela Brown-Burke. She wears many hats, but just for this moment, we are live, and we're reminding the people that we're live. But Dr. Brown-Burke, what did you make of this conference today? The energy, the message, so much happened.
Can I tell you, this is a culmination of 3 days. So it is in keeping with some of what we saw before. Persons are fired up, they are ready, they are on the ground. They came to hear that message to take on the ground, and I think they came and heard what they came for. They saw a party united, having fun together, but talking about serious things, because everybody brought a message that said that where we are is just not tenable. And we have to make that change, that people are depending on us for that change, and that we have a historic duty to make that change.
There were so many points that were fielded here, especially in the speech just given by Party President Mark Jefferson Golding. So tell me what stood out for you from that presentation.
Well, a couple of things stood out for me. One is around education and really what we are going to do, both at the early childhood education level as well as what we're also going to do for tertiary education, because those are the two most important aspects that we have to kind of close to make sure that we have persons in Jamaica who can benefit from that high productivity, high technology, high growth industry and economy. But the other one, of course, you know me, I'm a Porsche girl. So anything with Porsche, that's me. And I thought that initiative, the Porsche initiative, is really an excellent one, which is really around land and housing and what that will do for more Jamaicans. As we know that there are too many Jamaicans who are not living on a piece of land they can call their own. And so it's time to change that. We had started with Operation Pride, which was, an excellent initiative, notwithstanding some of the problems that it had. And so here, Comrade Leader came with a reworked initiative around making sure that there is an initiative for everyone in terms of housing, in terms of transformation of their lives.
What about support from your constituency here in St. Andrew? What was that like?
It was overwhelming. I have just been hiding the calls because this morning people were calling me about the bus, why isn't the bus here? And I'm saying, but we're not ready yet. We told you 9 o'clock. You know, when I was coming down, I said people couldn't wait and they were coming down. So that was good. And persons were here. You would have seen after the party leader spoke, we were over. People just stood up. Yes, we sung Jamaica Rise, that's the end of the meeting, and they were still here.
All right, well, thank you so much more to talk about at another time. We are also now awaiting further instructions, but we do have a few more people lined up from the party's top brass. Earlier, I spoke with Kingston's Mayor, Andrew Swaby, and he is on the sidelines waiting to come on and address some issues pertaining to the Kingston and St. Andrew Municipal Corporation. We have quite a bit of activities happening here on the stage, despite the arena now pretty much filtering on the outside because the event of the day is running to a close. We have the party's president, none other than Mr. Mark Jefferson Golding.
Hi,
all right, welcome.
Oh, it's Damon.
Welcome, Mr. Golding.
Yes.
So you gave quite the speech just now, but please talk to us about the messaging that you were focusing on. Why now, and how was it received?
I was bringing a message of hope to the Jamaican people to assure them that the next PNP government will, in the traditions of our party, deal with the society as a whole, especially those who need the help of the state to uplift their own lives, focusing on those areas where we're falling.
All right, so we had a break in transmission there with our feed at the National Arena, working to get that signal back up for you. But in the meantime, we can continue, gentlemen, looking at what happened at conference. And let's get right to the meat of the matter. The main speech today was presented by the Comrade leader. Roger, was there the requisite elements in the speech? I almost said, well, was there enough? But forget the enough question. Was there the requisite, or were there the requisite elements in the speech that would cause a Jamaican who is perhaps at this point desirous of voting but hasn't made a decision yet? Were there the requisite elements in the speech to pull that person forward to the PNP?
Poor George. So let's take it from two perspectives.
Yes.
From a technical perspective, one could say maybe that the speech would have it. I mean, there was even a call to action because there's this idea of you choose change versus... So there's this kind of call to action that comes at the very top of the speech, right? And then there's also the element of the party leader inserting himself as this individual and this stakeholder in this whole process. Myself as a child growing up with parents who were this kind of just community-based individuals, etc., etc.
Right.
And then he segued into a version of what he would necessarily want for Jamaica. But when it comes on to Jamaicans in particular and an audience like this, I think what they are looking for more, one, is issues that are directly affecting them. I'm not sure if we heard enough of that. Because I think when it comes to mind, some things jump out at me as a communicator. One, this idea of choosing change. The other one is better is possible, better must come. And then he spoke about this idea of inclusive economy. Right? Those are the things I think that at least can be themed from the conversation. Those are beautiful concepts. But at the heart of it, I don't think they were drilled down enough to extrapolate what I think the average Jamaican would want from that speech. So coming out of this, some work is going to have to be done by the party now to break those down into edible bits. Because I don't think there were edible bits in that speech today.
Sandre, same question for you.
Well, when you look at his speech holistically, you have to see what the high points, right? I spoke to the main high point that I think popped up, which would have been the legacies of the past party leaders, which led to him speaking about the Porsche initiative. I don't remember the acronym,
yes,
but I realized now it's a good acronym season because elections coming up. But I believe that what we'd want to hear from a more technical perspective, maybe the person who is watching on the TV screen, would be what exactly these policy changes are. Why I say that is because we are used to promises. The reason why we have voter apathy in its greater extent is because the independent populace, as it were, the people who don't care about politics, want nothing to do with politics, they don't believe that politicians live up to their promises. Therefore, we are now seeing an idea of people who will vote if policies necessarily benefit them. So when I heard, and he did go into policies, I'm not going to bash him for not going into policies, but there were particular things that were missing. When you look at it from a project management standpoint, I think that it's very hypocritical for members of opposition or government when they go on political platforms to speak at length about changing something in one day, or, oh my gosh, your life will become better tomorrow, because they know that the things that are put in place, the processes were put in place by them, who have been in parliament for years, and they know they put it in because they're trying to stymie corruption. So he spoke about crime. He spoke about refunding things that were defunded by Jamaica Labour Party. He spoke about how he wants a balanced approach for crime. But what does that balanced approach look like? As Roger said, you know, it didn't come down to small bite-sized bits. And that is where he has to, you know, show that there's a difference between himself and the Prime Minister, because people are looking at the leaders of the party. He goes into, you know, economic policy, and he said some things that are a bit off. He said that the PNP achieved the halving of the debt to GDP ratio. No, Jamaica achieved that. PNP started a program, JLP continued, but Jamaica achieved that. So you have to be very careful on how we go about things like that as it relates to policy. So I'm not against the fact that he went into it, but it's, does he have a baseline? Does he have a timeline? Is it a policy, or is it just a promise?
Hear you on that. Nika Lewis, I hear the feed is back up. Nika Lewis has the Kingston Mayor, Andrew Sweeber, with her.
That you have been one of the clarion criers for integrity, especially in construction and building permits and all of that. You did a lot of that coming into the actual conference. Talk to me about why this is important, especially in the KSAMC.
It's important. There's the stigma that was attached to the KSAMC, and we have to make sure that how we carry ourselves and our dispute in discharging our job, to make sure that it is above board. And what we are saying to persons is that, and we have to earn their trust. And we can't just earn their trust because just asking. We have to show the process, especially for the building approval process, where it's above free. You have heard the rumors all over the place about it. Every time I have spoken out about it all the while when I was in minority. I'm given the opportunity now to make sure we bring some level of transparency to him in terms of our contracts. We have to make sure everyone knows what we are doing, and it will certainly go down to the benefit of Jamaica.
All right, what about the crowd that you pulled out? I know you are in the Vineyard Town area. What were the responses like from the people in that space to the conference here today?
Well, you're actually in my division, I must tell you up front. And this morning I went on the road helping to distribute the T-shirts, and everybody was excited. From Nannyville, McGregor, Vineyard Town proper, they were just excited to be here. And I've seen it where they have turned out.
Any final words to the people who are watching from the corporate area or those in your division about what happened here today?
My final thing is to say that we understand your pain and help is on the way.
Okay, there you have it. I have a firebrand. He is no stranger to the political arena and to controversies. We have Senator Damian Crawford. He is contending for a seat over there in St. Catherine. Is that
Northwest
St. Catherine?
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
so, Mr. Crawford, you gave another electrifying speech here, and the crowd responded as always. But what made the difference for you this conference?
Oh, the energy of the people. Any political party can recruit enough persons to fill the area, but when you see the energy of the people, that is what we are excited about. So the level of energy was what was actually the thing that caused me to be enthusiastic.
I know that in St. Catherine, in northwestern St. Catherine, where you are vying for, there were people coming out for the PNP this afternoon. And what was that support like for you and the party?
It was excellent. We carried out about 600 persons, and that was something that we're excited to see. The last local government election, we had a margin of 3,000 over the Jamaica Labour Party, and so we think that that one is in the back pocket of the People's National Party, and we thank the people for the work that they've done and the confidence that they've shown in me.
And so what are some of the things that actually invigorated you as you listened to the speeches here today? Because I know there were some speeches that touched on myriad issues. Any issue that jumped out that really concerned you?
The party's commitment to education, including the finance spokesperson conversation, which means that funding will be coming, and also the next Prime Minister Mark Golding, commitment to education. So as a person who is likely to be at the helm of education, I'm happy to see that the two people that control the purse is in line with the conversations that were happening. And that would mean that we'll be able to extend the school day from 2:30 to 4:30. We'll be able to offer homework and remedial classes on Mondays and Wednesdays, and automatic clubs and society participation on Tuesdays and Thursdays. That is going to take an investment of funds to attach our young people and to do remedial classes on a weekend, and also ensure no one is left behind in the summers. All of that is going to take funding. So we're going to move it from 18%. Trinidad is at 45%, and we're guaranteeing that in 5 years we will surpass Trinidad, beating the Caribbean in the same way we're doing athletics at Carifta.
So quite a bit there. But what do you most look forward to as the parliamentary cycle reopens next week?
Well, of course, I look forward to what is being tabled on Tuesday. There's great excitement about that. But we think this is an election year, or election period. And we look forward to what the government is proposing in the different areas and what changes they're going to make. And then we will see if we are in agreement or in disagreement. But our excitement is really about what's on the road and what the people are saying.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Senator Crawford. All right. Okay, there you have it. My neck is still intact, but we still have a few more interviews. We have joining me now Senator Gabriella Morris. She's here very briefly, but she's here representing the PNP YO. She is the president. Now, Senator Gabriella, we've been hunting you down from the day started. Please tell us what the young people are saying about Conference 86.
Well, so far it's a positive energy. We came out here on the 86th conference hoping to create a certain kind of energy among the young people, especially of our party, to go out there and work, and also in the public sphere to get young people to understand the importance of their participation in this election. We can't have a minority government. We want people to come out and participate and represent, because that is what democracy is about. People coming forward and making a choice for the betterment of our future.
Let's talk a little about your political future, because you are now contesting. Tell us the seat and tell us what your odds look like in that seat.
Well, I'm in Northwest St. Ann. The odds are looking good based on our polls and based on political history. We should bring that seat home. So I'm hoping to be counted among the 32 that the PNP needs to secure a victory. I will be there.
All right. Any final messages to any undecided person watching and wondering what really happened here today at the National Arena for the People's National Party?
Well, today we outlined what I think is a plan for progress. The leader, he touched on a number of points. It's policy ideas that we have been sharing over the last
All right, so the feed gave us good service, but then decided to freeze at the death. We did hear from the PNP president. We did hear from Senator Damian Crawford, Senator Gabriella Morris, and we heard at the top from the woman who's the chairperson of the People's National Party, Dr. Angela Brown-Burke. All right, gentlemen, that gives us enough time to hurry and talk about policy. Now, I know we spoke about it in bits and pieces before we went to the recent round of interviews. So I want to go specifically into what the opposition leader said about the Students' Loan Bureau. The Students' Loan Bureau is always a point around which the major political parties look to score the points, because they want to be able to tell young people aspiring after a tertiary education, that we have the better plan to make it easier for you to realize that dream. And Mark Golding said that there'll be debt forgiveness for teachers who take students down, and people who work in the public sector, debt forgiveness for each year of public service. That's an incentive. And he also said it's going to make it easier for young people in general to get that students to deferred payments. You won't start paying until you start working. If you lose a job, the payments stop and are added back once you resume employment. Sounds good, Roger.
It sounds good. Sounds good. The devil is in the detail. It sounds good. Maybe right now we won't be too concerned necessarily with the details, but it sounds like a plan. I think most civil servants in particular, teachers, would love that kind of plan, especially given the kind of thrust that the education sector is putting on teachers to upgrade themselves. And the youth as well would love to hear that kind of plan. However, if you should follow the organization of that, it could become problematic in how you'll have to start and stop payments, in also having to layer payments based on the type of job a person may get. All those different kinds of things may become problematic, I think. But I don't think we need to focus on that now. Maybe they themselves haven't even ironed out all those kinks. But it's a good start.
So, Andre, he spoke about giving a fair deal to police, nurses, and several public sector workers. And he didn't say, so I'm asking you, what does he mean by a fair deal?
Well, I guess it's a concept of a plan. You know, it is something that you can say as a politician to win people over from that side, especially noting that we had the compensation review, the restructuring of the public service under outgoing Minister Dr. Nigel Clark. You know, what does a fair deal look like is a very important question, because we now look at what was considered a fair deal for politicians. You know, why did the politicians get the increase they got? And the question was answered in the brilliant response provided, and I say brilliant with some quotation marks there, provided by Dr. Clark, when he says, retention of the persons of, higher intellect and skill, and they didn't get an increase for years, and it was proposed XYZ, XYZ, XYZ. Now, when you look at the teachers who are leaving, when you look at policemen who are disenfranchised and stop you on the road to beg you money, because that's what I call it, they stop you on the road to extort you of the money, because they say they hold the gun, and even if it's not your speed, because it happened to me, a police stopped me and said, listen, you're going 100. I'm like, sir, this is not speed gauge. Ain't no way. When you look at that, you really have to look at, do we want the best service, and is this something we're willing to invest in? So yes, we've invested in the body cams, we've invested in the cars, we've invested in national security. Jamaica Labour Party government can take that, they can put a tick beside their box and say, yes, they've done that. But then human resources is absolutely important. If the people aren't happy in their jobs, how do you think you get the best service from them? So we now have to look at what percentage really is a percentage we look at as it is an increase. Is it 10%? Is it 15%? Because it can't be 5, it can't be 2, it can't be 3. So when the leader of the opposition comes with that proposal, he also has to come with what percentage we're looking at increasing, and also what time period, because obviously the government could do it in 1 year, they had to do it over a 3-year period with their public sector compensation, which says their processes. So he needs timelines, baselines, percentage increases, and showing us how that would meaningfully change, how that will match up against
consistent to what you said about the project management approach earlier. But here's the thing again, where he spoke, Roger, about crime, he said that they would reinvigorate Unite for Change, which was something that the Peace Management Initiative. And I asked myself, well, the kind of crimes that are happening now, the reasons for the murders, gangs fighting over the spoils of lottery scam, money wasn't shared right, or you took away my client, or you're just on the turf and squeezing me out. Are those the kind of crimes that the Peace Management Initiative was successful against in enough communities in the past to say that the Peace Management Initiative, Stronger Now, is the answer to bringing the murder rate down?
I'm figuring out that even though he may have mentioned the entities like the Peace Management Initiative, etc., that he's speaking to a more socially based intervention, because certainly the crimes that were relating to more gang-related issues in communities would have evolved now, right? And we're also seeing a lot more sophisticated criminals, more educated criminals, who are also very au fait with psychology and many other things. And they themselves understand how the church operates and and that kind of a thing. So I think he's speaking to a time when maybe those entities had a social impact, and maybe they, along with other social interventions, may still work. It can't be the here-all and the end-all, and I'm not sure if they're saying that that's the only solution, but they're adding it to say, taking it away in the past to just focusing now maybe on SOEs, etc., may not have been the best.
Yes.
I think the JLP also would have conceded that they see a social intervention as important as well.
Yes.
It may not have played out necessarily as much as they would have wanted to, but they want that kind of social intervention as well. I don't think it's a case for just the People's National Party.
Yes.
The People's National Party is now just saying, listen, we think that entities like these should be included.
What's a conference speech without an acronym to resound in the minds of the people? We got one today. We got the Porsche, and it was set up nicely because early in the program, much was made of the contribution of the former Prime Minister Portia Simpson Miller and women on stage, and they were presented as, possibilities made real by virtue of Portia Simpson Miller's ascendancy in the politics and in the People's National Party to the highest chair in the land of Prime Minister. And this Portia initiative, Sandra, I want to put it to you, speaks to remove zinc fences, to give people a more dignified way of living. And Mark Golding mentioned twice the mantra of Portia Simpson Miller, which said, don't look down on anybody unless you intend to pull them up. This Portia initiative, as it takes shape and as it is massaged to smooth out the edges, it could be something that the opposition party rides all the way to a very successful showing in Jamaica in the next election. The question is, though, is Portia Simpson Miller and the Portia factor so strong that Jamaicans broadly, outside of die-hard comrades, is it so strong that people will be minded to cotton on to it and give the PNP support because of it, because Portia Simpson Miller is so respected, so revered, and so loved outside of hardcore comrades?
Wow. That's a lot of a question.
Yes.
But I want to touch on two things. I want to touch on the initiative, and I want to get back to crime, because I have to be fair to Mark about his crime plans. But as it relates to the Portia initiative, he's tearing down zinc fences, regularization schemes, as it relates to Operation Pride, etc., etc. He went in and he spoke about it. The problem that we have is that, one, when he went to the Operation Pride part, when he mentioned that, I immediately sat down and I said, no, JLP is going to take that out of his speech one time, because that's what happened in the political sphere. And then when he speaks about tearing down zinc fences to, put up walls, etc., building that type of infrastructure, because Portia Simpson Miller believed in, building people and that type of thing. The problem I have with that is that the political representatives on the stage today, they sounded so utopian, as if these things don't currently happen.
Yes.
I am from a community where I saw zinc fences up to last year being removed, and the walls coming up. So if I just believe if they're going to come with an initiative and that they dub a Portia initiative, I believe that more should have been put in place. Something a little bit more transformative. So even if they were
perhaps something original, something
new, something to say, boy, we're going to put Wi-Fi in every inner city community, something. So it's not bad, but it is not the greatest idea. And I bring that as a parallel before I go into crime really quickly.
Get there quickly because time is against us.
I bring that as a parallel to Damian Crawford and how he mentions it in his policies and goes in. As it relates to crime, he spoke about a lot of things: therapeutic counseling, remedial education for at-risk youth, revamping the SDC, community-based training program, targeted detentions for known violence producers. He wasn't bad.
I heard that and I said to myself, unconstitutional, because the PNP was the same one that took the government to court in the early days of the SOE, because they said the detention of people was on. So I need to hear more on that.
So that's what I'm saying. I'm saying he went in, and I'm not saying he was bad as it relates to policy prescriptions, but there was no real policy definition as it relates to how they're going about. And then many times you can catch that bait and switch, that hypocritical nature, wherein you say, oh, but this is something we can do. And I was going to say, George, before I started speaking about Mark Golding's speech, in some instances I blame his speechwriters because they have allowed him to flip-flop. And the government, they're going to use some of the clips from this.
Gentlemen, we're well out of time. Just about 2 left, but I have to give you a minute each to just tell Jamaica if this year's conference was a success. I'm not the opinion maker here. I'm the facilitator of your opinions being made. But if I may wield some chairman's privilege, I think that this year's conference was a resounding success. The best I've seen from the PNP in a long time. They got most things right, and the things that they didn't get right, they didn't get it badly wrong. They didn't get them badly wrong either. What say you?
I agree with you 100%. It was a good conference. From the energy, from the clips, it was good television. I saw moments with family, Mark and his wife, just together on stage. I saw humanness to politicians. I saw unity. I saw brotherhood. I saw, entertainers coming in. It was just a really good mix, and I thought that without a doubt, a good showing. And they're going to take away from this in a very good way, and how to build momentum. The issue now here is how do you build momentum from this, right? Maybe we could split hairs as it relates to the party leader's speech. It may be not necessarily what we thought we would have wanted to hear, but that is irrelevant because the whole production leading up to his speech leaves something within us wanting more or having been satisfied, having seen it.
As a spectacle, success or failure?
Definitely a success for the People's National Party. As I said before, the Jamaica Labour Party would have to go to a really high standard to ensure that they meet these levels. Despite criticism for some areas of Mark Golding's speech, it was not his worst speech, but I don't think it was his best. And I think the speech is leading up, the show, the pomp, the energy, as Damian Crawford would have said it, the energy was really high. And that says that, the PNP, they're showing, as I would have anticipated, that they're a united party ready for an election. And what they have to do now, George, is show to the people over time that, listen, we are going to build on this momentum, we're going to bring our base out. You might be energized now, but it needs to translate into votes. And that is when you see whether or not the success of this conference would have led to a resurgence of what was, we'd say, the PNP of old.
Sandra Roden, Roger Bent, thank you, gentlemen. Thank you to the production team, Joel Crosskill and the team behind the glass, and the cameramen who have worked with us, and the team at the National Arena. It's time to say goodbye. Just want to say that it has been a good day for the opposition People's National Party. Every country deserves a very strong opposition, and the PNP, dormant politically for a long time, not a dormant party. This is tails up from the February 24 local government election, and they've taken that to a higher level with this showing on this Sunday. The challenge now, as Roger said, is to see if this can be sustained until the point where the polls are called and they go to fight for the chance to occupy Jamaica House. That's our time. Good afternoon.
Welcome to the ZZ Lottery Draw for 4:55 p.m. Sunday, September 15th, 2024. The one-drop winning number is 23. The hat-trick winning numbers are 9, 6, 6. The four-play winning numbers are 4, 3, 9, 1. The fireball is white. Thank you for playing with Izizi.
Democracy. Who are we and what would we be without it? The idea of freedom and equality between all people is not to be taken lightly. In the past, this view was not widely shared, and even today, there are societies governed by autocratic ideals. And so this concept of voting for one's preferred government and letting one's voice be heard is to be treated with the honor that it is. The United Nations General Assembly recognized this when, in 2007, it resolved to observe September 15 as the International Day of Democracy, with the idea of promoting and upholding the principles of democracy. All member states and organizations are invited to commemorate the day in an appropriate manner that contributes to raising public awareness. Welcome to this Sunday's edition of Jamaica Magazine. We hope you're getting refreshed and ready for the new week ahead. And for the young ones going back to school and who may still be feeling jittery, here's a reminder.
Fear is not the decider. Nervousness is understandable. Victory is the goal after all. You are strong. You are brave. You have what it takes. You are ready. You are ready.
Today's our day. There were nights we would fight.
If you're a student below grade 7 and struggling in school, pay special attention because this one is for you. The Ministry of Education is starting a transformation program for those struggling at the beginning of high school. Let's listen in to learn more.
Welcome to Get the Facts, the program that provides you with accurate and timely information on government policies and initiatives. I'm Theodore Henry. Today we'll be discussing an exciting new initiative, the Grade 7 Academy. This is a transformational project launched by the Ministry of Education in partnership with St. Michael's College. Now, this program aims to support some of the most underserved and vulnerable students in our educational system, particularly those who have recently entered high school with very low levels of literacy. 2 underperforming schools have been selected for this initiative, with one of them located in Kingston. Now, to delve deeper into this program, we're joined by Dr. Faith Alexander, Literacy Instructional Leader, and Mrs. Grace Baston, former principal of Campion College and project lead of the 7th Grade Academy. Thank you both for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Let's jump right into getting the facts. Lady Baston, I'd like to begin with you. Can you provide an overview of what Grade 7 Academy is and what it's meant to do?
Right, thank you, Theodore. So, the Grade 7 Academy. This intervention is meant to address, in a radical way, the problem of students entering high school, as you said in your introduction, with such low levels of literacy.
Right.
So, if, and Holy Trinity is not alone,
That's one
school we're using in Kingston,
okay,
the Holy Trinity
right.
High School. It's one of maybe 40 schools that have the same demographic, where students entering first form or grade 7, of the number, maybe 2 or 3% are reading at the level of proficiency you need to be able to engage the high school curriculum.
2 or 3%?
2 or 3%, right. So if a cohort, say, in 2023 of 200 students, that would have been about 3 or 4 students.
Wow.
And the majority of our children then reading at, grade 4, grade 3, grade 2, prima, pre-prima, or non-readers. Now, right, this is clearly something has gone wrong.
Right.
After 11 years, after all their time in primary school.
Right.
Whatever time they had in basic school, 6, 7, 8 years, they ought to be reading at least at grade 6, grade 7. No fault of the children's. We're just accepting it's a systemic problem and a serious problem.
And we're here now. Okay.
And this is where we are. Mm-hmm. So this intervention is meant to do 2 things. First of all, the objectives are, 1, to move that percentage of children reading proficiently in that cohort from only 2% or 3% to 75% in 1 year.
Big jump.
Super ambitious,
Big jump.
but we believe very doable.
All right.
And secondly, to engage in a kind of a re-socialization of the students. A lot of these children come to us very talented, wonderful, beautiful Jamaican children, but carry come with maladaptive behaviors. And some of it compounded, of course, by the fact that they're not reading.
Right.
Then there are the issues of how they feel about themselves and so on. So the program aims to do as well. It's going to improve literacy and numeracy in 1 year in a very dramatic way. But 2, it is going to provide these children with an intense, rigorous program of character formation and personal development. It's very grounded in Christian values.
And I think we're going to talk about that a little bit later. But you mentioned 2 schools. Well, I mentioned 2 schools and you mentioned 2 schools. Holy Trinity 1.
Right.
Who's the second?
The second one, which will have a delayed start, is the Newell High School in St. Elizabeth.
Newell in St. Elizabeth. Dr. Alexander, I want to bring you in here. Now, what specific challenges? I heard the numbers, but talking about Holy Trinity, how does the Grade 7 Academy, this plan, this ambitious 1-year plan, what are the details of addressing this literacy issue?
So one of the things that we'll be doing with addressing the low levels of literacy is using a framework called the Science of Reading, which we can expound on later, which was used with exceptional, exceptional success in Mississippi.
Mississippi, okay.
And so our program is grounded in the Science of Reading. Additionally, the children will be participating in technology to practice those skills that they would have learned, that would have been directly taught. So every day the kids will be playing in a sort of gamified way for an hour every day for both math and literacy.
Coming to school to play, I like it. I like it. So, and you mentioned something which I find very important, that this has been tested and proven.
Yes.
You mentioned Mississippi.
Yes.
I want to come back to you now, Mrs. Baston. Now, public and private partnerships, you hear a lot about this stuff, and a project like this sounds very ambitious. Right. So I'm assuming that there is quite a bit of partnerships. Can you tell us a bit about
Right. So the ministry has been wonderful in first of all, in our biggest partner, in allowing us to suspend the normal curriculum. Instead of these children doing 15 subjects, and so they've allowed us in this program to concentrate on the literacy and numeracy. Obviously, when the children are doing literacy, it's touching themes that have to do with science, touching themes that have to do with social studies, touching the themes in civics, all the things we care about. But it's unapologetically about literacy.
Right, so we have the ministry.
Every single day, 5 days a week, twice a day. Right. And then enriched, obviously, with drama and dance and so on. So the ministry is a huge partner. And have agreed to some of the, providing us with the teachers we need for the program. But things like the software that the children are going, the gamified software to which Dr. Alexander referred, it's at the heart of the transformation, right? Of getting the results we want. That's a huge cost. So we're seeking partnerships to help us to afford that. There's already the cost of coordinating the program, because those posts are not ministry-funded positions. There are the nutritional support. A huge part of getting this thing to be successful is having children come to school. And some of that has to do with being able to provide for them nutritious meals during the day. So the ministry will provide what it can, but again, we're reaching out to private partners to help us to do that.
Excellent. We're only halfway done. Please stay with us, because we're continuing our discussion with Literacy Instructional Leader Dr. Faith Alexander, lead of the 7th Grade Academy, Mrs. Grace Baston, right after this break. Stay tuned to Get the Facts for more insights into the Grade 7 Academy program.
All children deserve positive parenting. Why not pamper us? Be patient with us. Make time to teach us, and of course, play with us. Celebrate milestones with us, and don't forget to be our #1 supporter. Do all these things and practice positive parenting today.